All right, this is the review video for test unit 6 right triangles. Make sure you have the packet out and your formula sheet. As you're following along, so you can look at your setups for sine, cosine, and tangent. Also, some things I would recommend writing would be your SOHCAHTOA, so you remember everything. So number 1 says, which of the following diagrams correspond with the setup cosine of x equals 14 over 50? Well, we know cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we need to have a triangle whose adjacent side is 14 and whose hypotenuse is 50. So let's look at all of our options. For number 1, we have, here's x, so 14 is our opposite, 50 is our hypotenuse. So this one would be, sine of x would be 14 over 50, not cosine, so it's not going to be A. For B, 14 is my adjacent, 50 is my hypotenuse. So this one would be cosine x equals 14 over 50. So B would be a proper setup. For C, 14 is our opposite, 50 is our adjacent. So this would be tangent of x equals 14 over 50. So we couldn't use C. For D, 14 is our opposite, 50 is our hypotenuse. So this would again be sine of x. So we wouldn't want to use D. For E, 14 is our adjacent, 50 is our hypotenuse. So this would be cosine of x equals 14 over 50. So E would work. And then for D, 50 is our opposite, 14 is our adjacent. So this would be tangent of x equals 50 over 14. So we couldn't use F. So the only two whose setup would be cosine x equals 14 over 50 would be B and E. There's number 1. Number 2, it says in triangle ABC, the measure of angle B is 90 degrees, and sine is 1 over 2. Sine of A is 1 over 2. So if I know sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so if I draw out my triangle, here's angle B, A, C. I know the sine is 1 over 2. So here's x, here's A. So the side opposite of A is 1. My hypotenuse is 2. So I have to solve for my adjacent side. Okay, I'm finding cosine. So far I know that cosine of A is going to be something over 2. So it's not going to be A, or C, I mean. So find my adjacent side, find y. This would be 1 squared plus y squared equals 2 squared. 1 plus y squared equals 4. Y squared is 3, and then I square root it. So my adjacent side is the square root of 3. So I know that the cosine of A is square root 3 over 2, which is D. Perfect. Number 3, circle the trigonometric expression that will complete the equation based on the given diagram. So we're looking, all of our answer choices have B, so we're looking from B. So I'm just looking at this angle. I want 48 and I want the 50. Well, 14 would be my opposite. 48 is my adjacent. 50 is my hypotenuse. So 48 over 50 would be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is cosine. Number 4, circle all of the trigonometric expressions that will complete the equation based on the given diagram. So if I look from A, 48 is the opposite, 14 is the adjacent, 50 is my hypotenuse. So 48 over 14 would be opposite over adjacent, which is tangent of A. So that's C. And then from B, 14 is my opposite, 48 is my adjacent, 50 is still my hypotenuse. So this one would be adjacent over opposite, which isn't any of the trig functions, so our answer is only C. For number 5, we're doing the same thing. We're circling all trigonometric expressions that will complete the equation based on the given diagram. So from A, 14 is my adjacent, 15 is my opposite, 50 is my hypotenuse, always. Especially going to do that one in red because this is always my hypotenuse. So 50 is definitely my hypotenuse no matter which figure I'm looking at. So for A, 14 is my adjacent, so this would be the cosine of A, which is B. If I look from angle B, 14 is my opposite, 48 is my adjacent, 50 is still my hypotenuse. So in terms of B, 14 over 50 would be opposite over hypotenuse, which is the sine of B. Number 6, I don't know why that's printed a long ways. Okay. Circle all the setups that will correspond with the given diagram. So if I look at from the 49, the 36 is my opposite, x is my hypotenuse. So I know that the sine of 49 would be 36 over x. So sine of 49, 36 over x. So B would work. From angle 41, 36 is my adjacent, x is still my hypotenuse. So the cosine of 41 would equal 36 over x. So B and C work. For number 7, this is the whole, we're using our trig, but we're also using angle of elevation depression because angle x, because here's our triangle we're looking at. Angle x is an angle of depression. So I also know that this angle here, my angle of elevation, would also be x. So if I'm looking in terms of x, if I want to find B, I don't have my hypotenuse, if we're noticing. So I don't have any information about my hypotenuse. So I can't use sine or cosine. So automatically, to narrow out some answers, I'm going to cross off any of them that involve a sine or cosine. So automatically, A and C go away. So then if I look from angle x, A is my opposite, B is my adjacent. So the tangent of x is A over B. So I could use that one to find B, which means my answer would have to be letter B, because in D, it says my tangent of x is B over A. Just to make sure that we can use the tangent of y, here's the y. B is our opposite, A is our adjacent. So the tangent of y would be B over A. So our answer is B. Number 8, find x. Give your answer as a radical expression by filling in the box below. Now, this one is going to be a 30, 60, 90. Since we need it with the radical, we're going to need to use 30, 60, 90. So x is across from the 30. So I set up my 30, 60, 90. One, square root 3, 2. Side across from the 90 is the 10 radical 3. Across from the 30 is my x. I don't care about my 60-degree column. 1 over x equals 2 over 10 radical 3. So 2x equals 10 radical 3. Divide both sides by 2. So I get that x is 5 radical 3. So as you're noticing, sometimes throughout this test, you're going to have to use your special rights Pythagorean, or trig. For number 9, since I don't have any angles except for my 90 degrees and I'm looking for a side, I have to use Pythagorean. So this time, my 15 is my C. So this could be 9 squared plus x squared equals 15 squared. 81 plus x squared equals 225. I subtract the 81 from both sides, and I get x squared equals 144. I square root both sides, I get that x is 12. Number 10, this one I'm going to use trig for. I want to solve for x, so I have a bunch of different things I can use here. So I know 15 is my opposite, 36 is my adjacent, 39 is my hypotenuse. I'm going to solve this using sine, cosine, and tangent because you can use any of them. You don't have to do all three. You only need one. So for sine, I want to find the sine of x. That would be 15 over 39. Since I'm looking for an angle, I have to use the inverse. So this would be x equals the sine inverse of 15 over 39. So I'm going to put that into my calculator. Remember, I have to be in degree mode. For any time when you're doing something in the calculator with your trig, you have to be in degree mode. So I get that x equals 22.619 degrees. All right, say I wanted to solve this using cosine. Then the cosine of x would be 36 over 39, and still I'd have to use my inverse. So cosine inverse is 36 over 39. And then cosine inverse 36 over 39. Still in degree mode, and I still get that x equals 22.619 degrees. And the last one, tangent of x would equal 15 over 36. So x would be the tangent inverse of 15 over 36. And I still get x equals 22.619 degrees. So you can use any one of my trig functions when you have all three sides and you still get the same answer. Number 11. This is another 30, 60, 90. This. One square root 3, 2. The x is across from the 60 this time, so it goes under my 60 column. The 20 is across from my 90s, so this time I'm ignoring my 30 column. Square root 3 over x equals 2 over 20. So I get 2x equals 20 radical 3. Divide by 2. So x is 10 radical 3, which is answer choice D. For 12, I have to use Pythagorean theorem. X is my C. So x squared equals 13 squared plus the square root of 24 squared, which is 169 plus 24, which gives me 193, and then I have to square root that. So my answer is either 193, square root 193, or 13.892. Number 13, I'm going to have to use trig because it's not a 30, 60, 90, and I have an angle. So the 31 is my angle. X is my adjacent. 14 is my hypotenuse. So this is cosine of 31 equals x over 14. Cross multiply, I get 14 cosine 31 equals x. So x equals, just one moment, 14 cosine 31, 12.0003. All right, next page. We're continuing in degree mode. So this time we have a 45, 45, 90. Really, Remember, since your legs of your 45, 45, 90 should be the same, without even doing any math, I know this is 2 radical 2. Say you forgot that. Set up your 45, 45, 90, 1, 1, radical 2. Across from one of the 45s is x, the other one is 2 radical 2. When we know these two have to be the same, we still get 2 radical 2. 15. We have to use trig because we don't have 45, 45, 90. We don't have 30, 60, 90. We don't have information for all 3 sides. So the x is my opposite. 25 is my hypotenuse. So I have sine of 43 equals x over 25. Set up as our proportion, cross multiply. I get x equals, 25 sine 43. So x is 17.049. 16 is Pythagorean theorem. X is c, so 7 squared plus 24 squared equals x squared. When we do this math, we get 49 plus 576 equals x squared. So x squared is 625. Square root both pieces, we get 25 equals x. Number 17. I'm solving for x. Now, some of you might recognize that this is the pattern for our 30, 60, 90. So this would be 60, but say you don't recognize that. We could solve this using sine, cosine, or tangent again. So this would be our 9 radical 3 is our opposite. 9 is our adjacent. 18 is our hypotenuse. So if I wanted to use sine, then I would have the sine of x is 9 radical 3 over 18. And so that would be, I'd have to use inverse. When I put that into my calculator, I get that x equals 60. I could use cosine. Cosine of x is 9 over 18. So x equals cosine inverse of 9 over 18, which is 60 degrees. I could use tangent. So tangent of x would equal 9 radical 3 over 9. So x would equal tangent inverse of 9 radical 3 over 9, which still gives me that x is 60 degrees. Number 18, I need to use Pythagorean theorem. This time I have my c. So the square root of 256 squared equals x squared plus 15 squared. So 256 equals x squared plus 225. Subtract. Square root both sides. X is the square root of 31, or 5.567. Number 9, we have a 45, 45, 90. So this one's x. So I put it into my tic-tac-toe board. Across from my 45s are x's. Across from the 90 is my 6. So 1 over x equals root 2, oops, not root 6. Equals root 2 over 6. Cross multiply, I get 6 equals x radical 2. Divide both sides by the square root of 2. And then this is outside 6 over the square root of 2. So just have to rationalize it. Multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2. I get 6 square root 2 over 2, which is 3 square root 2. Number 20, I have to use trig because I'm looking for an angle. So for this one, 4 is my opposite, 1 is my adjacent. So tangent of x equals 4 over 1. X equals tan inverse of 4. I'll put that into my calculator. I get that x equals 75.963 degrees. 21. Wait, I have a 30, 60, 90 again. 30, 60, 90. You also could use trig, and I'll show you how you could use trig for this one. 1 square root 3, 2. Across from the 60 is a square root 6 square root 3. Across from the 90 is the x. Square root of 3 over 6 square root 3 equals 2 over x. X radical 3 equals 12 radical 3. Divide both sides by the square root of 3. I get x equals 12. Say we don't like those 30, 60, 90s. And we want to think about these in terms of trig. And the 6 radical 3 is our opposite. X is our hypotenuse. So sine of 60 is 6 radical 3 over x. Cross multiply. X times the sine of 60 equals 6 radical 3. Divide by the sine of 60. I get x equals 6 radical 3. Divide by the sine of 60 and put it into your calculators carefully with parentheses, and we get x equals 12. (22). Again, this is another trig. 15 is my hypotenuse, 9 is my adjacent. So cosine of x is 9 over 15. So x equals cosine inverse of 9 over 15, which is x equals 53.130 degrees. 23. More trig. Okay. Cross multiply, or not cross multiply, sorry. 9's our opposite, x is our hypotenuse, so sine of 56 equals 9 over x. I set up my proportion, I cross multiply. X times the sine of 56 equals 9. Divide by the sine 56. On this side, I cancel out, and I'm left with x equals 9 times square sine 56 in parentheses. This would be 10.855. All right, given one side of an equilateral triangle, find the length of the altitude. Well, we know these are 30, 60, 90s. Or I can use trig. So 30, 60, 90, 1 square root 3, 2. X is across from the 60, the 20, 34 is across from our 90. Okay. Cross multiply, we get 2x equals 34 radical 3. Divide both sides by 3, we get x is 17 radical 3. Or we could have used trig, in which case x would be our opposite, 34 is our hypotenuse. Sine of 60 is x over 34. So x equals 34 times the sine of 60. Which is x equals 29.444 centimeters. Okay, find the length of the diagonal. So we could use 45, 45, 90 here. We could use trig, or we could use Pythagorean theorem, because in the square we know all of these are the same. I'm going to do all three ways. 27 squared plus 27 squared equals x squared. So this is 729 plus 729 equals x squared. So this is 38.183 centimeters. There's one way to do it. I also could use my 45, 45, 90s. And I get 27 radical 2 equals x. I also could use trig because I know these are my 45s. This is my opposite, this is my hypotenuse. Cross multiply, I get x. Sine 45 equals 27. Divide by the sine of 45. (27) divided by the sine of 45 is 38.183. We get the same answer every way we do it. 26, our coordinate plane's back. So for AB, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. BC, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the measure of angle C, we have to use trig. We have 7 here, 12 here. So for the measure of angle C, 7 is our opposite, 12 is our adjacent. So we have the tangent of C equals 7 over 12. So C is tangent inverse of 7 over 12, which is 30.256. And then for A, 12 is my opposite, 7 is my adjacent. So the tangent of A equals 12 over 7. So A is 59.743. You also, for A, you could have done, well, I know that angle B is 90 because it's the right angle. So for A, I could have done 90 plus 30.256 to get, and then subtracted 180 from that to get this also. 27, the slope of AB. Well, I went down 4 and over 2. That's negative 2 over 1. BC. That's up 5 over 10, which is positive 1/2. So these two together tell me that angle B is 90 degrees. So that's a right angle. The length of AB, well, it's 4 squared plus 2 squared. Which is the square root of 20, which is 4.472. All right. So then for BC, that was 5 squared plus 10 squared, 25 plus 100. So that's the square root of 125, which is approximately 11.180. So then for angle C, so AB is my opposite, BC is my adjacent. So for C, the tangent of C is going to be the square root of 20 over the square root of 125. So C equals tangent inverse of square root of 20 over square root of 125, which is 21.801. For A, that's our opposite, that's our adjacent. So tangent of A equals the square root of 125 over the square root of 20. So A is tangent inverse of 125 over square root of 20, which is 68.199. 28. Number 28, I'm going to make this a triangle. Well, since I know this point was 7, 3, then this down here is 7, this was 3. That's how many I went over and up to get to that point. So then I can use my trig. 3 is my opposite, 7 is my adjacent. So tangent of x equals 3 over 7. So x is tangent inverse of 3 over 7. So x is 23.198 degrees. Okay. 29. Draw the triangle from her position in a hot air balloon. Angie sees her car parked in the field. The angle of depression is 8 degrees. Angie's 38 meters above the ground. What's the straight line distance from Angie to her car? So we're looking for this. Well, we know that these two angles are congruent, so that's also 8 degrees. So then the 38 is our opposite. X is our hypotenuse. So sine of 8 equals 38 over x. Cross multiply, x sine 8 equals 38. Divide by the sine of 8. So x is 273.041 meters. All right, a ladder is used to scale a 10-foot wall. So here's our 10-foot wall. The ladder makes an angle of 46 degrees with the ground. How long is the ladder? Our 10 is our opposite. 46 is our hypotenuse, or h is bleh. X is our hypotenuse, so sine of 46 equals 10 over x. Cross multiply, x sine 46 equals 10. Divide by the sine of 46. And x is 13.901 feet. Number 31. Elevation from point A to the top of the hill. So here's our hill. From A to the top of the hill is 49 degrees. If point A is 400 feet from the hill, how high is the hill? So x is our opposite, 400 is our adjacent, so we need to use tangent of 49 equals x over 400. So 400 tangent of 49 equals x. So x is 460.147 feet. (32) Joe needs to clean out the gutters on his house. The gutters are 25 feet high. He has a ladder that is 32 feet long. How far from the base of the wall? So we need to use Pythagorean theorem. 32 squared equals 25 squared plus x squared. 32 squared is 1,024. 25 squared. (399) equals x squared. Square root that. The square root of 399 is 19.974 feet. (33) The sun casts a shadow off a 35-foot building. So here's our 35-foot building. The sun casts a shadow. The angle of elevation to the sun is 60 degrees. How long is the shadow to the nearest foot? Shadow is always on the ground. So that's our opposite. This is our adjacent. So the tangent of 60 equals 35 over x. Cross multiply. 35 equals x tangent 60. Divide both sides by the tangent of 60. So x equals 20.207 feet. All right, 34. A ladder leaning against the building makes a 61-degree angle with the ground. The ladder is 8 feet from the building. How long is the ladder? So cosine of 61 equals 8 over x. Cross multiply x cosine 61 equals 8. Divide by cosine 61. X equals 16.501 feet. That's 6. Okay. 35. The angle of depression from the top of a sheer cliff to a point A on the ground is 35 degrees. So angle of depression, 35 degrees. So this one's also 35 degrees. A is 280 feet from the base of the cliff. How tall is the cliff? Opposite, adjacent, so tangent of 35, 80. So x is 196.058 feet. 36, a person stands at a window of a building so that his eyes are, oops, 120. Okay, so he's standing at the window of a building. So that his eyes are 112.6 meters above the ground level. An object is on the ground 58.5 meters away from the building. What's the angle of depression? We're looking here. Angle of depression is the same thing as the angle of elevation. So 12.6 is our opposite. 58.5 is our adjacent. So tangent of x equals 12.6 over 58.5. So x equals the tangent inverse of 12.6 over 58.5. So x equals 12.154 degrees. Make sure that's right. Yeah. All right, next page. Almost done. Standing at top of a 50-foot building. Tom can see his dog down the street. The angle of depression is 10, so he's looking out. This is 10, so I know that this is 10 degrees. And Tom is 6 feet tall. So if we're looking at this whole triangle here, this side is not just 50. This whole side should be 56. So we have to add in his height. Because we're not looking at it from his feet, we're looking at it from his head. And we're looking for the straight line distance from here. So 56 is our opposite. X is our hypotenuse, so sine of 10 equals 56 over x. Cross multiply x sine 10. What should be sine? Not tangent. Okay. Whoops. Yeah, x sine 10 equals 56. Divide by the sine of 10. 322.491. Yes, perfect. 38. A 32-foot ladder makes an angle of 62 degrees with the ground. How far from the base of the building is the bottom of the ladder? So x is our adjacent, 32 is our hypotenuse. So cosine of 62 is x over 32. 32 cosine of 62 equals x. So x is 15.023 feet. All right, find the area of the triangle. Since we do not have the height in this one, this is one of those problems where I need to use area equals 1/2 AB times the sine of C. Again, you can get that off your formula sheet. You should be using your formula sheet. A equals, here's one side, two side, your angle, 1/2 of 9 times 5 times the sine of 37. Just plug that all into your calculator, and you get 13.540 as your area. Perfect. All right, the area of a triangle is 67.8. That's our area. One side length is 22.5, and the included angle is 31 degrees. So we have our area, one side, and the included angle. So when we do our formula, I can plug in big A, little a, and C. 67.8 equals 1/2 of 22.5 times B times the sine of 31. I'm going to multiply together everything with a number over here. So when I do all of that, 0.5 times 22.5 times the sine of 31, I get 67.8 equals 5.794b. So divide by 5.794. So I get 11.701 for B. 41. This time the area is 62, and the two side lengths are 14.5 and 12. So I have 62 equals 1/2 14.5 times 12 times the sine of C. Multiply together what we have. So 62 equals 87 sine of C. Divide everything by the 87. Sorry guys, the board's being weird. As soon as the board stops being weird, we can finish this problem up. Cool. All right. So 62 over 87 equals the sine of C. So then C equals the sine inverse of 62 over 87, which is 45 point. Since it says to round to the nearest tenth, so 45.5. All right, we're on the final page. Find the area of the triangle below. Well, this time we have the height. We just need to find the base, so we can use Pythagorean theorem to find the base. 17 squared equals 8 squared plus b squared. 17 squared is 289. So b squared equals 225. So b is 15. So I know this time I can just use the area equals 1/2 base times height. So I get 60. squared for my area. All right, final problem. Sorry. Calculator thing weird. Okay. Number 43. The diagram below consists of parallelogram made up of a pattern of congruent triangles. What's the area of the parallelogram? Give your answer in square feet, correct to 1 decimal place. So I want to find the area of each of these separate little triangles. So that little triangle here, if the whole thing here is 6, and this piece is 3, the whole thing here is 12, and this piece is 6. So the area of each little triangle would be 1/2 3 times 6 times the sine of 118. So the area of that little triangle is 7.9. And there I have to multiply that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7.9 times 8. So the full area is 63.2 feet squared.